Hey guys, my name is Jack. Welcome to my review of Sinners, written and directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, Hailee Steinfeld, and Miles Caton. A Western vampire mashup, which is absolutely phenomenal. Potentially one of my favourite films that I've seen for a couple of years. It is very, very good, a unique story. Let's get right into it. So let's start with a brief outline of the storyline. Smoke and Stack are twins who are moving back from Chicago down to the deep south of America, and they are planning on making a club run by black people for black people in the deep south of America, and their opening night is crashed not by who you'd think it would be crashed by, with like the KKK or racists. It is crashed by vampires, of all things, and that it creates a very interesting storyline, a very cool mashup of genres. So let's get into the review itself. Let's start with the cast. Michael B. Jordan does an amazing job in the lead role, or should I say roles, because both Smoke and Stack are played by Michael B. Jordan himself. He does a great job as Smoke and Stack are completely different and distinct characters with their own mannerisms, attitudes to life, way they interact with the world is very different from one another, and you very much believe that they are separate characters and distinct characters. The other main name for this film is Hailee Steinfeld in the role of Mary, whose role is a lot smaller than I was expecting. The marketing around it made it seem like Hailee Steinfeld was one of the major players in the story, when really she's more of like a opening the door type of character, almost like a MacGuffin, almost more so than a major player in the story, if this makes sense. I'm gonna say Caton. I could be wrong, it could be Caton, but I'm gonna say Caton. Miles Caton in the role of Sammy is a brand new actor. Sinners is his very first credit on IMDb, not even any short films or TV work. This is his very first role, and he does it brilliantly. For this role, with the mythology behind this storyline, needs a very good singing voice and needs to be a particular type of character. Miles Caton does a brilliant job in that role. He's got such an innocence to his performance, and on top of that his voice is so lovely and deep and rich and really suits the setting, but also the type of character that he needs to be for this storyline. Wunmi Masaku could read me bedtime stories with that voice. Her voice is perfectly suited to telling mythological stories and backstories of supernatural creatures, and her as an actor and a character is also perfectly suited to this role of this witch doctor type of character who knows a lot about this supernatural side of the world, and maybe not knows exactly how to interact with them and how to beat them, but knows enough to help our characters and knows enough to know that what they want isn't necessarily good for everyone else. Rounding out my highlights for cast, you can't have a vampire film without a brilliant lead vampire leading the way for all of his evil, dark doings, and Jack O'Connell is the perfect cast for that. It's time that we give him the credit that he deserves, and his character of Remick is a brilliant start to that. He's brilliant in everything that he does, and this is not an exception. Rounding out the principal cast, you've got Lee Jun Lee, you've got Delroy Lindo, you've got Jamie Lawson, and you've got Omar Miller. I've got notes on my phone here. And everyone brings their A game. Every single one of them is on top form. There is not a single weak member of this cast. As a non-American, it is quite difficult to catch everything that is said at the very beginning of the film, because you need to tune into that accent. But once you've tuned into it, it is smooth sailing, because everyone's accents are on top form. No one's falling out of accents, no one's struggling with any particular words or phrases with accents. This brings me on to the writing section of my review, I suppose, with the dialogue. And the dialogue, as again a non-American, is very believable. Not just the place that it's set, but also the time that it's set. Without any cliche or stereotyping, it is written very believably. in terms of the dialogue. One thing I would say with the dialogue is that it feels a lot raunchier than it needs to be necessarily. It's a vampire flick, it needs to be quite sexy, it needs to be quite raunchy. However, even outside of that viral Hailee Steinfeld line, there were a couple of moments where I was like, and I wasn't expecting it to be that in your face with its sexuality. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Vampire films do need to be sexy, but I suppose it's that clashing of vampire genre versus Western genre. It's that slight clash between the two genres. Moving on to the mythology of the story, it's very well explained in terms of how the vampires work, how once you get bit you transfer your memories into the person who bit you, and the person who bit you transfers their memories into you, so it's all almost like a hive mind kind of a situation. The mythology around Sammy's character and all of that is also very well explained at the beginning, and then also touched on later and later in the film. And on top of that, it doesn't explain everything. You still are left with questions, wanting more. I do have two major gripes with the story of this film. My first one is, it felt like there was two storylines going on, and it felt like both of those storylines were so distinct and so strong in their own right that they could have been two separate films, and it feels like those two separate films potentially would have had more time to develop. The two storylines being Smoke and Stack creating that club in the Deep South, and then the storyline between Sammy and Remick, just the supernatural side of it. Both those stories could very easily be very strong stories on their own, and it felt like sometimes the pacing wasn't able to give the two storylines the justice that they deserved, because they needed to meld them together. My other issue with the film is, why did Smoke and Stack need to be identical twins? I was expecting one of them gets bit by a vampire, one of them doesn't, and we as an audience or the characters in the film don't know which one's the vampire and which one's not the vampire. But they never played on that. It really felt like a look at how great the technology is and look how great we are as filmmakers to be able to create this very believable twin relationship out of a single actor. And look how good Michael B. Jordan's acting is, being able to perform these two roles. Which brings me into my third category, the effects, because oh my god, do they pull off the twins brilliantly. I was watching an interview between Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler talking about this, and talking about how Michael B. Jordan would direct his double on what he was going to do as Stack, so the double knew where to stand and stuff. There was multiple moments when they pass a cigarette to one another, or they're hugging each other, and it never feels off. Every single aspect of the twins and the effects of the twins is done perfectly, and that is easily said for all of the effects in this film, from the practical fire effects and fake blood and stuff like that to the obvious CGI of duplicating Michael B. Jordan. It is all done brilliantly and very much believably, and it is a spectacle to watch. In similar lines, let's talk about the cinematography. In general, it is shot beautifully. Shooting at night is very difficult. Shooting at night is very, very difficult, and they managed to do that perfectly. It's dark to the point of it being creepy and it being uneasy, but it's not so dark that you can't see what's going on or you struggle to see what's going on. It is perfectly lit during the day scenes and during the night scenes. The cinematography isn't the main aspect of a film. If you like to watch films to see cinematography done brilliantly, this isn't the film for you. This film doesn't rely on its cinematography like some films do. And this also gets pulled into the fight scenes and the action set pieces in this film. It's a little bit scattered, and it doesn't feel like it's purposeful in terms of shaky cam is there to make the audience disoriented. So we feel what the character's feeling. It just feels like it wasn't shot brilliantly. Ryan Coogler is an amazing, brilliant film director, but I do feel like fight scenes isn't his area of expertise, and I do feel that that shows just a little bit in the fight scenes in Sinners. And rounding out my technical parts, sound, what you're hearing. The score is so creepy in the perfect way, as you need it to be with a vampire film. It is absolutely exactly what you want, and tied with the sound design and the sound effects that go with it, it is perfectly creepy, and it's exactly what you want out of a vampire film. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. You can't really relax into it at any point. This is my first review of a film I think the film that made me go, no, I want to start reviewing films was Gladiator 2. If you want me to review that, I will. I just never got round to doing it. But this is the film that I was like, no, I need to talk about this. I need to get my view out on this because it is so very good. So I don't really have a rating system. All I will say is it is definitely a film that I will be adding to my DVD collection. I've got a growing DVD collection, and it is definitely a film that I'll be adding to that. I suppose out of 10, I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9 out of 10. Like I said, there was a couple of things that from my personal taste, didn't work as well as it could have. That's more of a preference thing, more so than was it a very well made film thing. And it was a very, very well made film. From the acting, the directing, the sound, the score, the cinematography, it is all very, very well done. If you liked this video, please feel free to like and share and comment and all that. Make sure the algorithm knows that this is a worthwhile video to watch. And other than that, I will see you in the next video. See you guys later. Bye.